into custody. And what I mean by that is this. For probably about 40 years, for the last 40 years, there were 253 counties in Texas that were doing it the right way, and one county that wasn't doing it the right way, which was us. And again, Sheriff Laburn says we're going to follow the law, so we follow 218. And basically what that means is this. There was a restriction from municipalities, and there's 43 of them here that have their own law enforcement agencies. When they made an arrest, we had to wait until the case was accepted by the DA before they could transport them into the county facility and all that. Well, that's not what the law says. The law says upon arrest, they will be transported. So that's what they are. And then they get arraigned. They can be arraigned if it's Arlington or Grand Prairie on the Tarrant County side or wherever they're at. They can be arraigned by municipal judges there and then transported in, or we can do it there too. So we take them almost immediately at this time. So that's kind of what 218 is. And the big concern from a lot of people was, is this going to increase our jail population? And it eventually, the way we kind of look at it is, number one, we're following the law, but number two is eventually we're going to see those prisoners anyway, and they still have the ability to bond out and get out of jail. So we had a short spike or a small spike at the beginning of the program, but it's working its way out because eventually we're going to see them anyway. And we only see Class Bs and above, which a Class B is anything other than a traffic citation. So if you get a traffic citation, or if you're cited for public intoxication or a theft under $50, that would be just like a ticket, just like a traffic citation. So if it's anything above that, then we'll take them. So those are some of the things that he's done that we're proud of. And it's been great. The last 14 months, there's been a lot of change and a lot of good change. There's been some restructuring. Tarrant County, the county or the sheriff's office has 1,500 employees, so we're a pretty significant employer here in the county. About almost 900 of those employees work in the jail setting because it's a 24-hour operation. There's close to 4,000 inmates in there. So, it takes a lot of people to operate those facilities. So, there's, and like I said, Tarrant County, we've got almost 2 million people in the county. A lot of people question what exactly, authority does the sheriff have? And because in Florida and in California, they have a contract with the municipalities where they will supplement their patrols and stuff. Well, we don't have that. Generally in all of Texas we don't. I think Harris County, you'll see them in Houston doing some traffic stops and other things like that and doing all those things. But in Tarrant County, you got Fort Worth, Arlington, all those municipalities who have their own police departments. And there are 2 that don't have their own police departments, and that's Hazlitt and Edgecliff Village. And we contract law enforcement services with them, so we do that. So as I said, we're full service law enforcement. We just do it in the unincorporated parts of the county. So that's kind of a brief nutshell of our structure a little bit. And I'll talk about our crime scene unit and our criminal investigators and different things. And if you watch the news over the last couple of days, we've been extremely busy. We had a double homicide at a adult strip club there it's almost in Parker County, but it's ours. And it was right on the line, but it's a club called Temptation. There was a double homicide there that we worked over the weekend. And the investigators and Sergeant Brown's unit collected evidence there for that. And, there's 2 suspects in custody. So that was a good thing that it was done very quickly. We've had a couple of sexual assaults over the last couple of days. We've had barricaded persons. We do a lot of stressful things there. So we're, like I said, we're full service law enforcement, and that keeps us busy a lot of the time. As far as the structure goes on criminal investigations, when somebody picks up the phone and calls 911 and they get us and they want to report whether it's a theft or lost property or a burglary or, a missing person or runaway, or if it's a violent crime like an assault or an aggravated assault, or an aggravated assault is an assault where someone hurts another person and they just cause serious bodily injury, or they use a deadly weapon. So that's kind of what that means. Or if there's a sexual assault of a child or an adult, or if there is an assault with serious bodily injury or homicide, then we'll come out. So the deputies get there, and what our responsibility is once we get there is to make sure that the scene is secure, and I'll just kind of walk through if it were a homicide call. Once we get there, the uniforms will show up. We'll set what we call a perimeter, and the first thing we do is we're going to go in and make sure that the location is safe and that it is secure and there's no active shooters in there or anyone who's going to harm us or anybody else that's a victim. And then we'll get medical care and all that into there, and then we start thinking backwards, as in if it happened inside the house, we don't know if it started outside the house until we get witness statements and all that. So whatever we determine that our crime scene is, we make it bigger. So sometimes we'll double or triple it because we don't want to miss anything. And those are lessons learned from other agencies and law enforcement in general, especially when you're dealing with an outside environment. If it's a homicide, that you got to make your perimeter really big, or you might miss something like another body that's out there, and that's happened before. So not here, but it's happened before. So and that's a horrible situation for everyone, including the family. But anyway, so we get there, and then our investigators will call for what we call CID, which is Criminal Investigation Division. So they come out, and we brief them on what we have and where any location of any witnesses or victims or whatever. If there's a victim that goes to the hospital, then we will go with them to safeguard them and to take any statements that we may need from them. Our crime scene investigators will show up. They're responsible for collecting of the evidence. The investigators from the criminal investigators are in charge of the scene, and they coordinate and partner with the crime scene people as to when, where, and how they collect the evidence and what we're looking for, what the specifics of the offense are. Is there blood or body fluids or fingerprints or whatever it is there, fibers. I mean, it's just amazing what you can get DNA off of, and just in the last 5 or 10 years, there's been touch DNA. So if I touch this, I'd have to touch and sweat on it a little bit, but once they do, he could come behind me and swab that and if and test my DNA and match my DNA to that DNA that I just touched that. And that's what we do a lot of the times. And then there's forensic evidence. Everybody nowadays has a camera, and they have a camera on their phone, and but phones are a gold mine for a criminal investigator, and they just are. I mean, there's everything from text messages to photographs to videos to recordings to phone call records, you name it, and it's there because all of our lives are basically on our phone, including mine, including his, and probably a lot in this room. And some of them are innocent, pictures of grandkids and your wife and birthday party, and or if you're filming this or whatever it is, some of them are innocent like that, but some of them relate to the crime. And forensics on phones, especially in the human trafficking trade, they're really big as far as doing the forensics on a phone where you're doing those things. Now, I want to assure you that everything that we do is all in accordance with the Fourth Amendment. So we write search warrants based on probable cause to get into a phone, because you can't get into it any other way unless someone consents to that. So everything's done by a search warrant, mostly unless people consent. But a lot of times, even if people consent, and the thing about when you start looking at case law and you look at arrest, search, and seizure in the Fourth Amendment, There's a couple ways that searches can take place, and one of them is by consent. If you consent to the police officer or the detective searching your home or your car, that's fine. We require written consent for that to happen, so we have a form called a consent to search form, and it has, we fill your name out and everything on there, and then you sign it. And then there's no question as to whether or not you gave us consent or not. But the thing about consent is it can be withdrawn at any time. And let's say we're in a home where there's a back bedroom and there's a padlock and a bar and everything else on there, which raises your suspicion that maybe something in there they don't want me to see. So those types of things, consent can be revoked at any time. So they can say something like, you can search anywhere you want to except that room right there. So, at that point, we do our search, but we don't go into that room or that closet or that purse or that, whatever it is. Now, the only way we could, and I'll give you just a couple examples. There are exigent circumstances that can occur.